Hello. So, the trailer for 2023's Wonka ends with the tagline, "Discover how Willy became Wonka." Now, as much of a nonsense statement as that is, what it's trying to promise is that this movie will show us how a young Willy Wonka became the man we know, and specifically Gene Wilder's version of the character from 1971's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And no, I'm going to stop you right there. I will not be accepting the argument that this is a different version of the character akin to Johnny Depp's version in the Tim Burton movie. No. From the opening notes to Timothée Chalamet's vocal performance, you can tell they are very clearly going for a direct prequel to Gene Wilder's version. And does this movie do that? Does it serve as a prequel to that 1971 movie? Well, kind of. This movie certainly doesn't break canon, and it does show us, the brand of Wonka, how that could have risen to prominence, but it doesn't really bridge the gap and show us how the character of Willy Wonka becomes the Willy Wonka at the beginning of the next movie. Timothée Chalamet plays a seemingly naive, incredibly optimistic, and positive person, and he doesn't really change throughout this movie. He remains static, and the world changes around him. Gene Wilder plays a jaded, sarcastic, borderline sadistic recluse.
Don't just stand there, do something!
Help. Police. Murder.
And so between this movie and the next movie, there's easily like a full movie's worth of material just kind of lost in translation. And that's fine. There's nothing technically wrong with that. There could be a movie made to fill in that gap, but I feel like it doesn't service this movie and it doesn't live up to the promise that was made. And so in my rewrite, I'd like to attempt to bridge that gap a little more and give a version of events that lead a little more clearly into the next movie, into the direction of Gene Wilder's character. So quiet up and listen down. No, scratch that. Reverse it.
Gamey cookie guy!
Entertainment.
Now, thankfully, since this is a prequel, it kind of does have to work for us. We know where we have to end, and we can work backwards from there. Unfortunately, and honestly, I can 100% see this being the reason that the filmmakers went in the direction that they did. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory does not start with Wonka in the best place in his life. He is alone. He is distrustful. The only people he has in his life that we can see are Mr. Wilkinson and the Oompa Loompas. That is what we have to work with. And so if we look at how Wonka ends, it's actually kind of right on the money. Willy Wonka and one lone Oompa Loompa get to work on building the factory. Honestly, that's about right. It just doesn't have the right context to it. Okay, so our ending's basically in place already. Where can we start? Well, we can also kind of start in the same place. Wonka arrives with 12 coins in his pocket and dreams to be amongst the world's greatest chocolatiers. He also shares that same spontaneous optimism and naivety that the Timothée Chalamet version of the character has, and that's fine to start out with. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. This is what leads him to sign a bad faith contract with Scrubbit. And I like this specifically because it leads right into a moment in the next movie when Willy kind of plays the same trick on the parents and kids.
What's this all about?
Standard form of contract.
Don't talk to me about contracts, Wonka. I use them myself. They're strictly for suckers.
So he is in the service of Scrubbit, and now is when he would meet the full gang of new characters, except I'm scrapping most of them in favor of one old character, Walter Wilkinson. And yes, I made up the name. I think it's fun because it kind of reverses Willy Wonka, Walter Wilkinson. I think that's fun. He is a boy slightly older than Willy Wonka. He is a jaded kid who can act as a foil to Wonka's innocence. He becomes the first friend Willy makes in town because they're in the same situation. And yeah, the ensemble cast from the new film is fun. I liked them a lot, except I would just like to spend time deepening relationships with characters we already have rather than establish relationships with new characters. And so, with Wilkinson's help, Wonka is able to sell chocolates and really start to make a buzz in the neighborhood, as seen through the song, "You've Never Had Chocolates Like This." As they grow in success, one more person gets added into the fold of Scrub It Service. This is going to be my version of Noodle, who has essentially the same backstory. She's an urchin, but I'm going to age her up to be about the same age as the other boys. And so now we have our three central characters working together to sell chocolate, evade the police, and make a fool out of Scrub It along the way. Now, I'm reversing the order of these songs, but the next thing I'd like to do is add back in that zoo scene, or really any scene, any excuse for Wonka and Noodle to spend some one-on-one time together. They dance on the rooftop. I would never want to cut that. That was maybe one of my favorite visuals in the whole movie. We have their duet for a moment where they talk about their hopes and dreams. Wonka tells her about his mother and this dream of sharing chocolate with the world. And this is when we start to notice a change in Noodle's character. Noodle clearly likes Wonka. He clearly likes her, although, to be fair, he likes everybody, so we're not entirely sure what his intentions are there. But she's being very reserved, a little standoffish. She, wants the best for him, but she doesn't want him to ruffle too many feathers. She's being very inquisitive into his process. We're not really sure what her deal is, and Wonka is far too trusting to be skeptical of his friend. And now we get to do my favorite scene in the whole movie, A World of Your Own, where Wonka finally gets to open his own chocolate shop with his friends. This is the happiest he will ever be. He has reached the mountaintop just in time for things to go horribly, horribly wrong. People begin to grow hair everywhere and change colors, all the while, just across the street, Mr. Slugworth announces a new line of chocolates, and they are all Wonka's recipes. Wonka and Wilkinson are thrown into prison by the corrupt police chief for poisoning the town, and just when he thinks he is at his lowest, Noodle comes to visit them in jail. She was the one who stole his recipes. She was the one who poisoned his chocolate. She reveals that she is Arthur Slugworth's niece, and she has been working for him the entire time. She has that kind of attitude of, I'm sorry, but this is just how the world works. Good day.
You're an inhuman monster!
I said good day!
This is the big betrayal at the behest of Slugworth that Grandpa Joe implies at the beginning of the 1971 movie. Willy Wonka will never be the same after this moment. He has just lost his innocence. He is becoming a little more calloused because of this relationship with Noodle. And I dare you, please, re-listen to their duet for a moment, because I love her lyrics with the context that she is just playing him. She's planning on betraying them this whole time, while his lyrics are just so purely innocent. And now, in a bit of a role reversal, it's Wilkinson who has to try and cheer up Wonka. And as the boys are trying to comfort each other, they still have each other. Lofty, the Oompa Loompa, comes with the key to the cell to free them. A little Deus Ex Loompa. Of course, throughout the movie, Willy has been talking about the Oompa Loompa, and Wilkinson has never believed him, but this is where he is revealed to Wilkinson and the audience at large. And more or less from here, the movie goes to plan. Lofty, Wilkinson, and Wonka hatch a plan to break into Slugworth's to steal his ledger. Let's say Noodle let something slip while they were talking in the jail cell, so they know that this ledger exists, and that is the only thing that can clear their names. And it will be in a critical moment when all seems lost that we get a little bit of redemption. Noodle comes in to save the day. She will help Willy and his two companions overcome the odds, turn the ledger over to the police, and win the day. Now with the evidence, Slugworth, Scrub It, the police chief, and Noodle herself are all put away. Having cleared his name, but unfortunately lost some of that useful innocence along the way, Wonka is a bit melancholic as he watches the children play in the chocolate fountain, and he reaches in his pocket, he takes out the bar that his mother gave him, and he opens it, and he reveals the golden ticket that she left for her son. This, right here, at this point in the movie, is where we get the first line of pure imagination, not sung by Willy Wonka, sung by Sally Hawkins or whoever is playing his mother. He hears his mother's voice as he looks around, hears the tune of Pure Imagination, and sees all these happy faces enjoying his chocolate. As this plays on, he breaks the bar into 4 pieces, and he keeps one for himself. He gives one to Lofty, he gives one to Wilkinson, and he gives one last piece to a nearby child. And then we're back at the end, which is also the beginning. Willy Wonka builds the factory, and in the last few lines of the movie, he wonders how he's going to staff this place. When Lofty ends the film with a, Anyway, that is my version of Wonka. I think it just gets us a little bit closer from Timothée Chalamet to Gene Wilder and gives us a compelling story along the way. Please let me know in the comments if you liked the movie as is. I hope you did. Or if there's any changes you would have made. Remember to subscribe for the next rewrite. I will see you then.